It's a shirt I've had for a couple of years. It's given to pretty much every coach by the National Football Foundation. And, that's been their promotional thing, I think, since all the way back in 2014. And I would just say any insinuation that I was trying to mock the Black Lives Movement.
You were?
Black Lives Matter movement. It is just an attack on my character. Address that. And then the last thing is I had
I've been broke so many times, I don't know what to believe. Mama say it's my fault, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Niggas bless up on my
Next coach we're speaking about is no other than Clemson's very own Dabo Swinney. You know, the man who religiously continues to go at Deion Sanders nonstop. Now, this guy, Terry Kennard, he spoke up about the things that Dabo was doing to his son Jaden. If you guys want to know who his son Jaden is, this is his son Jaden right here. Now, the allegations that were claimed by the father, who's a Clemson legend, if you don't know who this man is, Terry over here, I'll tell you. Terry Kennard is a Clemson football standout who helped lead the Tigers to their first national championship in 1981. Kennard took Clemson's football coach Dabo Swinney to task on his Facebook, which is this picture over here. I'm gonna post again. And he talked about the mistreatment of his son Jaden. Now, Jaden is a redshirt freshman at this time from Sumter who got treated badly during that year of December 29 during the Gator Bowl. Swinney made Jaden's last two practice the worst experience of entirely the whole time, the dad said on the Facebook. He purposely belittled Jaden, insulted him, and said other things towards him. He called him names. Now, this 2 days public onslaught went far beyond anything resembling any kind of appropriate coach to athlete exchange. Coaches can use tough tactics, but when trying to get the best out of a player, this was definitely not that. It became obviously Dabo personally, and it was overkill towards the player Jaden, who's the son of a legend, just like the situation which Dabo called out Deion Sanders, or the audience in the media called out Deion Sanders for merely responding to a Twitter rant towards one of his transferred players, and they called Deion Sanders everything under the sun than what his mom calls him. You know what I mean? But yet they sweep this under the rug. We're not even done yet. Now, Jaden, he disputed all this as false and said it's true what his dad said, and he went deeper with it until Dabo released his own statement. Dabo said, "I dispute this claim. He's being mistreated." You know what I'm saying? Like, this was taking a situation that literally spurned left. Now, the racist coach, Danny Pearman, would prove that Dabo is a liar as far as the things that go on within the Clemson situations. Now, if you don't know, Danny Pearman's use of a racial slur went viral. It set up waves and everything that got swept under the rugs again. Now, Dabo's response was quite strange, how the media didn't want to pay attention to it, but I'm a good journalist. I paid attention to it. Now, if you don't know, Dabo made an excuse for the coach's slur, and this was his defense of that coach.
And so, there wasn't anything swept under the rug. There wasn't some dirty secret. We handled it head on. And also will say that forgiveness and grace, I think, is important. It's important for any of us. But I've known Danny Pearman for 30 years. And Danny Pearman is a good man. He's had incredible relationships with his players. You can call Dwayne Allen. You can call Jordan Leggett. You can call Brandon Ford. And so
you see this guy, he is smiling and talking about this as if it was nothing. And it's always these guys. You see the pattern here? It's always people who are their friends they give passes to. Same thing with Urban Meyer or the Jim Harbaugh situation, Nick Saban. It's always these people who are involved, just like Mr. Emmerich, the president of the NCAA, who's friends and who also hired Nick Saban. They protect each other. This is the good old boys club, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not done with this, but we know this situation, Coach Pearman was correcting DJ, they claim, and he was yelling at a player. DJ basically said something that he shouldn't, and the coach went off. And what Dabo seems to not care is about the person's feelings. He said in a statement that Pearson made a mistake. He repeated the word, only trying to stop people from using it. Well, talk about a conundrum. He said, I would fire a coach immediately if he called the player the N-word. No question asked, Dabo said during that particular Monday. But that did happen, and he didn't even do anything about it. But it shows you the character. They love talking about Deion Sanders' family members. What if I tell you the brother of Dabo Swinney was arrested, ladies and gentlemen? This man was arrested for some unheinous charges. It was for stalking and educational purpose situation involving a minor. You guys could read it. I'm not going to get into it for the algorithm. This is his brother right here, no other than Henry Swinney, and he looks like a Swinney, no doubt. And all these things got swept under the rug. Can you imagine if this was Deion's brother or family members? I mean, they're talking about Shiloh's 2016 lawsuit that happened in 2015, almost a decade, and they're still talking about it as if it's breaking news because no other than the likes of Jason Whitlock who brought it about. But you guys can look at the receipts here. Look at some of the allegations that happened, and to you naysayers, you're going to doubt it and say it was nothing. But the brother at least admitted guilty to the stalking claim, you know, towards the ex-wife or whatever that was involving in the Alabama situation. But it goes deeper, man. It doesn't stop. Dabo got in some other situations, as you can see here, that went famously during the situations of cops killing African Americans who are unarmed. There was a wave of a group called Black Lives Matter, which Dabo would use a shirt during the same moment to say football matters. Everybody knows it was a shade towards Black Lives Matter, including the football players who plays for him. He shaded, no doubt. And what made it even worse about that, he shaded, he also, and I want you guys to look at it here so no, there's no sugarcoating it, but this was his response to that situation.
Address that. And then the last thing is, I had a t-shirt on that someone took a picture of me that asked to take a picture. And it's a shirt I've had for a couple of years. It's given to pretty much every coach by the National Football Foundation. And, you know, that's been their promotional thing, I think, since all the way back in 2014. And I would just say any insinuation that I was trying to mock the Black Lives Movement, Black Lives Matter movement, it is just an attack on my character. Address that. And then the last thing is, I had a t-shirt on that
What's sad about that is he took no accountability for it. Everybody knows when you added that matters in football what you were talking about. You came with a scripted note, sir. You refused to talk about the situation openly with your heart and just you speaking. But they always get a scripted paper to hide what they're doing. Now, this is been an embarrassment for the university because he even went on Fox trying to defend the situation. Who would have thought? Fox News and Fox Sports? We're not going to get into that. And it continues on. You see the pattern with the racist antics involving African-American players and Dabo Swinney. Now, there's a player right here by the name of Hamid Williams who claimed that Dabo used a racial slur towards him in the locker room in front of the whole team. Notice that every player who accused these coaches, they had all evidence to back them and support them. They always had credible evidence like other characters involved. Now, this thing goes a little bit deeper. You can see where Dabo, and I'm going to show you guys a receipt. You guys can read it. But these things were swept under the rug from the likes of ESPN and other outlets. Meanwhile, they're talking about Deion Sanders for a micronism of a fraction compared to what these coaches, all of these coaches I've been talking about in this documentary. And you can see how things are far different when it's a different complexion. Now, he speaks about these things with a weak excuse. You see what he said here. I'm not perfect. Nope, far from it, Swinney ranted. I've been part of failure many times, but there ain't nothing in my life that I failed at. Tyler never ever, Swinney told Tyler from Spartanburg, that fans like him are part of the problem. He's calling other fans part of the problem. You see that? Now he says the expectations are more than appreciated. And I want you guys to know that the cops also try to protect him in this situation, which was actually scathing. And it showed you how coaches like him get protected by the entire segment. If you guys don't believe me, I want you guys to read this article right here. I'm going to make it big for you guys, but Dabo clearly in this situation was protected by Southern Carolina cops, that is. And just read this right quick, and I want you guys to see what he gets to get away with over there. I want you guys to pause that, and now let's put it again. Now, these are the police stations supporting my claim, the actual accounts of events that happened with him addressing certain fans who exposed him. I'm not gonna even waste time playing the other one, but I want you guys to see that yourself, to know how far certain people of the Mayo Nations will protect each other and stay on code during all of this at the same time. Now, it's just more things. I'm not done with this thing. He speaks about these scripted events, but he doesn't go deeper into it. Now, Dabo comments on racism is merely the little things you should worry about. When asked about players protesting during the anthem, he previously said it's so easy to say we have a problem, but we got a sin problem. He also stated that his players would be in trouble on the team for exercising this kind of dissent. He's also the same coaches who said these Black Lives Matter people who needs to leave the country. That was his sentiment towards it, and then he cleaned it up. Now it goes on. Dabo is calling out players the same way they claim Deion Sanders was, but he had in a rift between a former quarterback, DJ Ugiala, and his father, Big Dave. If you don't know who they are, this is DJ and his father, Big Dave, right here. They would insinuate some other things and allegations on Dabo, and it goes deeper. Now, the father of DJ would say that Dabo's stance on the NIL and transfer portal was more hypocrisy that you've seen. They claim Dabo couldn't adapt with quarterbacks and actually get them ready for certain situations. He talked about the NIL, how Dabo doesn't want to pay players at all, but yet they call Deion Sanders a broke, cheap coach. But when you're reading coaches like this here, including Matt Rule, begging and jiving, you know what I'm saying? Just a lot going on. Now, the dad, he basically who looked at the situation and called the coach out in the proper manner and proper way. Now, this documentary is going to be for well over an hour or two, so I want you guys to get your popcorns and enjoy it. But with Dabo, it goes more deeper. To hear his eccentric, corny speeches on scripted situations or not,
they are ready to lead the way in being a part of the solution for this country. And I stand with my players, and I will help them any way I can to unify people and help create positive change.
Now, that was his weak excuse for the situation, and these are all scripted. He's the same guy who said this about NIL.
Thinking through it, and I mean, for me, we built this program on NIL. We really did. And it's probably different than what you're thinking, though. We built this program in God's name, image, and likeness. And that's how I look at it. So thinking.
Man, that was the corniest, fakest speech ever. And this is the thing they get away with because these gentlemen remind these media personality of their uncle, their father. But let's just be honest, man, the unbearable entitlement of Dabo Swinney, it goes far deep in how the media protects them and cleans them up. I don't know if you guys know about it, but I do my homework as a journalist. There's a place in Clemson called the Tillman Hall. This place has a travesty of history, ladies and gentlemen, and it's sad. Now, two schools from the heart of Dixie, two head coaches in Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney, who make staggering sums of money, two basically teams that are overwhelmingly filled with African Americans on their teams, and in a move that makes past alumni spins in their grave, led by African American quarterbacks, two teams with defenses unafraid to unleash helmet to helmet hits against their opponents, hits that sent these amateur players into a sideline tent where they could be ministered to and by school trainers away from prying eyes to see the hidden things and agendas. Now, two teams who rabid student sections who were basically overwhelmingly, if not entirely white, living vicariously through the violent exploits of their black classmates. Now, this place here, the reason why I had to give that whole speech, now the Tillman Hall, these are basically also two schools where the history of the South hangs like a nightmare over the 21st century campus. The University of Alabama basically is a central chapter of the Black freedom struggle in the United States. It's where segregationists such as Governor George Wallace tried to physically block the university's doors. And Clemson, right here with Tillman Hall's very own, Clemson is built on the grounds of notorious Vice President John C. Calhoun's plantation. You know what I mean? This is factual. Calhoun was perhaps the country's most prominent 19th century spokesperson. You hear me? Now, listen to this part. He was the spokesperson for using Africans' bodies as slave labor. There is also a building that I'm talking about continuously right here. I'm showing you Tillman Hall, named after Benjamin Tillman. And if you don't know who's Benjamin Tillman, this is the demonic character right here. I'm gonna tell you a little bit more. Now, Benjamin Tillman, he was the proud, violent white supremacist, former senator, and someone who had a black state senator named Simon Corker assassinated in 1876. Now, Simon wasn't just anybody. Simon was someone who basically was a black state senator named, basically, you know what I'm saying? He was one of the main flourishing black senators during this time, because history and schools today will make you feel like Obama is the first of this and that. Well, black Southern gentlemen were already in politics long time before all these crabs that are being thrown to us as breadcrumbs and pacifier. But this gentleman who assassinated him right here, he's looked at and honored in Clemson. This gentleman right here, Benjamin Tillman, it just shows you some of the things that allows in these universities. Now, this guy killed Simon Coker. Now, Coker dropped to his knees praying to this evil guy right here, Tillman. And then Tillman stood over his body while two of his goons took the life of Simon Coker. Now, students over the last several years who are melanated have been trying to organize sit-ins in effort to rename Tillman Hall, because imagine going to school here and seeing something like this being blessed and honored, and the struggle is still ongoing. And I can keep going on some of the things such as schools like, you know, Clemson, because the history seems like the distant past where we looked at how lucrative these games have become. ESPN paid during this year of 2016 over $7.3 billion to broadcast the college football playoffs. Swinney was asked about the idea of actually playing given the dramatically transformed economic landscape of the game. He said that if players are ever paid, I'll go do something else, which he's a liar. He's never went, but it shows you the self-entitlement in this world that guys like him has. If anyone has expressed on an obscene amount of entitlement, it's Dabo. Here is someone working on a refurbished plantation who makes millions of dollars off the sweat and head injuries of overwhelmingly black, unplayed at that time, that is, players. And yet when asked about the Black Lives Matter movement in September, he said some of these players and people need to move to another country. This is his words, but people keep making excuses for the guy who says things like this.
December 1 of 08, when I got the job, I was a D+ hire. So, you know, that sticks with me. And,
you haven't forgotten that. It's like when Tom Brady, he's deep in the draft. He remembers that when he wins Super Bowls.
I'm a D+ hire. And every day I go to work, I remind myself I'm a D+ hire.
That you are a D+ hire. Now, college football is a septic tank of entitlement. It's fungal culture created by the head coaches of big football. Dabo is basically very much the very embodiment of the culture of the Mayo coaches, adrift, clueless, and filthy rich. South Carolina Department of Public Safety has issued a first of its kind citizen alert warning residents and visitors about personal and potential encounters with longtime Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney. They protect this man to do anything he wants. You know what I mean? Especially when he had his famous interview on Fox News
that morning, and you know, the AD, Tommy tells us what's going on. The AD comes in, and you know, I don't know if he flipped a coin or what, but he said, "Hey, you're the head coach now, and I need to see you at my office in 5 minutes, and you call all the shots." And basically, I had a 7-week tryout. So I like to tell everybody I was a walk-on player who earned a scholarship, and I was a walk-on coach who got the job.
You got the job basically by your own admission because of the code and culture of the good old boys club.
Heart been broke so many times.